Welcome everybody to the FG stream. Going over some live crypto charts this evening. Hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend. And let's jump right into this, man. But first, we gotta say hello to everyone in the chats. All my people, N Wizzle, B, Rye Guy's a Fly Guy, D Crypto, Jelly Bean, Grateful Dabs, Moonlit, Blockchain Cowboy, Dumb Nizo, Piggy Llama, Crown Chakra in the house. Main. Hunter, Crypto Coons, thanks for modding, man. Thanks for showing up, guys. 35 to 40 people in here right off the bat. That's a good sign. Or maybe it's a bad sign because shit's dumping and going to shit. And so everyone's flocking to YouTube to see who can go live and provide the sauce. It's the formation of a brand new weekly candle. And look what's happening, guys. We just get this fresh weekly candle open, and we were very far away from that weekly candle's high and low, right? Starting a new week in the midpoint of the previous week can be a little sketchy at times. And that's kind of your clue that there wasn't an obvious trade really for the majority of today, because we were kind of just fiddly farting around in the daily range. Not really testing any of these orange lines. Look at all these orange lines. Previous weekly highs, previous weekly lows. You're smack dab in the middle. It's like, fuck that shit, you know? Especially with so many conflicting signals, such as the fact that we're in November, right? That means that the time is of the essence for us to return back to the Q4 VWAP. Last month's VWAP, the quarter 4 VWAP. That's where all the volume's at. Look where we were trading at the start of the quarter. And so, despite all this nasty shit that happened, it is a new month. And so, I have faith that Bitcoin will be able to digest this, and it will be able to eventually get this pump up to the Q4 VWAP here, guys. I do. In fact, I would go as far as to say is by this point, I'm bullish. And yet, what do we see in the charts? We see the weekend move getting absorbed. We see bulls, early bulls, Sunday bulls getting baited into this inducement right here, falling for this trap as we lose the new monthly VWAP and we begin to collapse where? To the weekly support. So there's a lot of people talking about we're going to 92, we're going to 75, we're going to the 80s. Blah, 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 blah. But you got to take one step at a time. What I think is actually likely is we come down here, take this weekly low, and then we actually return back to the Q4 VWAP where all the volume is there. Okay? So while this is a bearish quarter so far, this is a likelihood. This is a trade I'm eyeballing going into next week, is a potential long here. I did catch some long scalps, and they didn't really go that well. I took like one step back and one step forward because my shorts got stopped, and then I hit the short, and then I got back my loss. But messy little micro small orders, low risk, but you know, some messy little trading. I should have really just waited for this most recent short that I caught that was really clean. But both accounts are still alive. Both accounts are still doing good. And I'm kind of just waiting for the next high time frame liquidity sweeping event. And so here we are on this Sunday night, guys, and we're getting it. It's happening tonight. And this gives me a little bit of hope that there actually will be a nice trade tomorrow. So I was thinking, man, we're going to start this new week. We're at the middle of the range. This is not a typical weekly leapfrog setup, right? But now we're starting to get that volatility coming in. Now it looks like Bitcoin, as of just recently in the last hour or so, looks like we're actually getting that move down towards the weekly high time frame SR. And it looks like the downside is going to be the first one, the first side that gets hit. And then I believe after that, it's back up to the upside. An alternative scenario. Now, see, there's different scenarios. It's not like I mean, I could gamble on this and it probably would pay off, but that's not how we do business around here, because there's even better prices. Just looking at this chart right now, there's last month's low on Bitcoin right here. And so along from this level, like if that weekly support ends up flipping to resistance, you got to close your shorts and you got to try and re-enter lower. The next high time frame SR would be the monthly low. So once that big wick gets taken there, you would then look for some strength and then trade back to the Q4 VWAP like that, back to the upside. So while often a weekly high low will catch the price, just be mindful that there are no guarantees, and sometimes there's something bigger going on in the chart, something bigger than a weekly move, a monthly scale move, a quarterly scale move, a larger type of repricing, you know? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know which of these lows will get taken before we reverse back to the Q4 VWAP, but just know that I'll probably take a swing on both of these. If this weekly low gets taken, I think there's at least a long scalp there back to the weekly VWAP. So if we go on our weekly chart here, and we're going to slap a VWAP on what is now last week's candle. We're going to go back into our small time frames. And as you can see, this yellow line here is the time frame, or sorry, this is the VWAP of the time frame that's about to get its low swept, right? So as we sweep this low like this, we're going to come down here like this. That from there is a nice point. If you see the signs, a nice strong 10-minute Heiken Ashi with no bottom wick, market cipher basic strategy, that's your trade. It doesn't have to be a full-on reversal trade all the way to the top of the range, but there's something there, something you could jump in and at least aggressively take profits on, whether it's the weekly VWAP or a simple VWAP from this technical high here. As this grows, that'll lower and come down here, and that'll give you a nice exit for a potential long scalp there. And so what this means for altcoins is that altcoins are getting shit on. Fartcoin here, as you can see, testing previous weekly lows already, looking real weak down here, looking like, you know, maybe either this low itself is enough. Like we come down here like this, and then that's enough to reclaim and go up again. But there may be some more important low or something that needs to get tagged here on Fartcoin, such as, you know, one of these wicks from the major event that took place last month. But really, it just depends on what Bitcoin is doing. You know, it's easy to say, oh, alts will just nuke if Bitcoin goes down, but maybe they don't. Maybe alts already nuked. Maybe the worst is out of the way for them. You never know. You just got to see, like, when Bitcoin is showing that it is at its low, you want to go to your altcoin charts. And does it look like it's also tagging a high time frame support or resistance and providing the same system? XRP, as you can see, look, it's far away from its prior weekly lows. And so this is going to take a while for this long to show up and be convincing enough for you to take on a lot of these altcoins. Just looking at some of these altcoins here, Solana, it looks like all these high caps are already starting to dump, looking to take these prior weekly lows, and that's a double weekly low, 1, 2. Okay, so when it's 2 weekly lows in a row, that's a strong support. Just like how we had these 2 weekly highs last week, right? You come up into last week's high, form a new week, you hit that high too, and it's only a matter of time before you trade back to, look, see, that week's VWAP, see? So we're bullish this week, same strategy, same system, but flipped to the upside, which is actually nice. So while things are looking a little hairy right now, I am looking to potentially observe some strength here and not be too panicky at the lows of the range. Yes, sirree. Looking at Ethereum here, approaching those lows of the range. And so, yeah, we're approaching this very strong bi-weekly support, right? So this level should hold, and this should be enough to send us back to the Q4 VWAPs across cryptos. If it's not, don't get too attached. You know, if you start to see strong resistance forming, like the candles like coming up and getting rejected at these weekly lows here, then I would say, you know, get out until you see strength again, because what could be happening is a full-on monthly sweep. Because, you know, if you're going to return back to, just think critically for a second. If you're going to return back to last month's VWAP and you're a whale, what's the best price to get to execute on that idea? And that is always going to be the monthly low, right? The low of that VWAP that you're trying to trade back to. So what makes it a little tricky is the low from last month was a weird outlier event. It's debatable amongst the trading community whether this low was a fluke or if this is a technical level that we really do need to come back and revisit. So, you know, I can't really make any huge promises to you guys. All I can tell you is what I'm doing, which is I'm looking for a bullish reaction at these prior weekly lows, just like how I looked for that bearish reaction at these prior weekly highs last week. Caught a nice short there. And just like how we did back here at the absolute top as well, catching the sweep of a major weekly high time frame candle sweep. So when you go on these weekly candles, guys, there's not many places on these charts in these candles where it's safe to leverage trade, in my opinion. You know, like this green candle, for instance, it's a nice green candle, but the wick that sweeps that candle's high is the top, and then, you know, look what happens. That wick goes all the way down here. And so time and time again, see here, there was a high, and then look, you take that high, you take that low. So these weekly candle levels, you got to enter your trades inside these wicks. These are the only places in the chart where your money is safe when you're using leverage. Keep your support and resistance very simple. High time frame, simple support and resistance. You don't need all the Fibonacci's. You don't need all the fair value gaps and volume profiles and all this bullshit. You need the combination of price, time, and volume. We have a new period. That means that, you know, the lows of this period, whether it's the weekly period or the monthly period that you're looking at, these are the levels that whales are looking at for potential long entries. And you're looking for longs because last month's VWAP is overhead. That's where all the volume is for the last 3 months. So that is the plan. That is the plan for the night. I think I'm going to potentially take a little nap after this stream, wake up middle of the night and kind of just see, try to micro and see what's going on with these lows. It looks like on the heat maps here, just take a look at the heat map just to see. You can see here that, you know, there's a little bit of heat below us, but for the most part, most of the heat is above. And so this is kind of supporting, even though you don't really want to look at a heat map solely and use it exclusively. You can see here that there's a little bit of room down to go, but there's a lot of people that need to be hunted to the upside. Let's look at an altcoin. Let's look at Ethereum. A lot of liquidity up there at the highs. Just a little bit of heat below. So the heat maps are painting a picture here, which is that, you know, you come down, you take out the last little bit of people, anyone who was long from this low. This was a nice low across cryptos. I really liked this low. I called it out in the VIP. Not as good as I wish I did, but I did do a little write-up here. I said Bitcoin or even though the timing's off, you know, it's not a new week, so these sweeps didn't speak to me as hard as usual. But look at that double red dotted line there. What that means is that's 2 prior monthly lows that we just plunged into. You look at why there's 2 lows there. You'd have to enable some prior monthly levels here. But what happened here is all the way back in August/September, August turned into September as we were kind of just bottom fishing at this low here. And so that creates 2 monthly lows at pretty much the same level, which actually came into play just recently. Nice little bounce there off that level. Is it enough to fend price from a test of the October low, though? Ooh, you know, it's like, damn, this is a tough debate in the markets being had right now. It's happening live tonight. Tonight, going into tomorrow, we will see if that October low needs to be tested or not. Just make sure you're ready for if it needs to be tested. You know, get ready for it to be potentially even a messy dump below, you know, down maybe to like 98 or something, right? Like it could dip below 100, but ultimately I believe that, you know, any price at or below the monthly low, the last month's low, it's going to be a good entry for a long when the dust settles and it's all said and done. So that's my spiel, guys. That's my plan. I'll be in the VIP if you guys have any questions tonight over the price action as it's going down. If you guys want to have access to my VIP, go to empoweredtraders.com. I got all my services here. Code PLATINUM is 40% off the Leapfrog indicator with all those VWAPs. Market Cipher code FG. Breakout code here as well if you want to try your hand at funded trading here. And I'm doing this with you guys. I'm in here on the battlefield, charging into battle with you guys, trading on these breakout accounts, getting these payouts. Make sure you guys follow me over at Twitter at Flopping Groper here. And without further ado, I'm down for some chart recommendations. If you guys got anything for me, I'll look at it. But, you know, we're keeping it brief tonight. That's the plan. Nothing else to it. Crypto Crank says, BTC is an institutional asset. I'll be using my fibs along with everything else you said. Trader Geo says it will not stop at 98. We already did that fake out in June. It's going to low 90s at least. Well, let's check our bigger levels. I think that you might be getting a little too ahead of yourself, brother Geo. You know, you sound very sure of yourself, bro, but you were fading CME gaps and shit last couple weeks, bro. You've been talking real confidently about stuff, and it doesn't really always go the way you think. You know what I'm saying, bro? So, you know, the same happens to me too, man. Sometimes I'll jump the gun and I'll ask for a price. I'll ask for a good price that I want in the market, and I don't get that price, you know? So what I've learned is to kind of just prepare for both scenarios and like accept that I'm a retard and I don't know where the hell anything's going at the end of the day. All I know is the sticking points. You know, we have a sticking point here at the weekly lows, which is earlier than a lot of bears. As you guys can see, there are some traders who are very bearish, right? Sticking to this weekly low and then pumping back all the way back up to the Q4 VWAP is kind of devastating, you know, because you're wanting this deeper correction. So if you don't get that, that kind of sucks. But you know, if it does go deeper and we take the monthly low, that to me is a advantageous price for a leverage trader to give to try their hand at a long, you know. Blockchain Cowboy says, is that scam wick from the dump a sure thing because it's different on other exchanges? That's what is so debatable about it, you know. That is what is currently being debated. I can't really tell you, man. One thing I can tell you is that I really love where we dumped to. You know, where that capitulation wick dumped to was a very important level. It was the Trump VWAP, guys. It was the VWAP from Trump's election on November 5th. I mean, we wick right down to that, indicating that Trump supporters, Bitcoin-loving Trump supporters, and this Trump sentiment, this Trump bubble, is actually still alive. So, you know, you can form an if-then statement. If this VWAP is lost, then that sentiment is also lost, and things could potentially go lower. But I would have to kind of see it first, you know? I do see a lot of money flow pouring out on the daily here on Market Cypher. You know, I do see the makings of what could be something ugly here on the daily 2-day. Yeah, money flow looking a little weak there on the 2-day. I mean, as you go up these big time frames, they can turn around, and when they turn around, you don't want to fade them. But yeah, I mean, look at these money flows pouring out, a downtrend of waves. You know, some of these bigger time frames are, I mean, look at that monthly wave actually on the cusp of losing the 60 line there. So yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you just long and just hope it works out. You got to keep that stop tight. If that previous weekly low doesn't hold and becomes resistance all of a sudden, get the hell out of that thing, you know? Because that means it's not a normal week of price action. That means we're getting not mean reversion of any kind, but some sort of expansion to the downside. And so are you guys ready for that? Are you ready for something bigger to potentially roll through if it needs to? As long as you're okay with that potential reality, well then, you know, what's the problem with catching a nice high likelihood move off of one of these major high time frame supports? Crypto Crank says, we're not bearish, we're not bullish, we're stagnant. Definitely, you know, definitely a stagnant time in the charts. Stagnation sucks. Everyone wants it to go up or down, so when it doesn't do anything, that sucks. Doing nothing in life sucks. It's like doing nothing is worse than being a bad person. It's like, just pick a side and start walking. Just pick a direction and start going. If it's the wrong direction, you'll figure out real quick that it's not the right direction to go, you know? So yeah, stagnation. Traders hate that, you know? We should never strive for safety and merely focusing on survival and not taking healthy risks. We need to be thriving. So yeah, man, you triggered me with that one, bro. But Rye Guy is a Fly Guy says, I've learned when you get a weekly green dot confirmed, it usually plays out, so I'm just gonna do that. Yeah, man, a weekly green dot is a crazy, you know, especially in this trend. I mean, let me flip on some Heikin-Ashi indicator here. Still at a point where we can say that the monthly trend itself is still high momentum. Hasn't really turned to the downside yet. So it's not like bears are 100% sure of themselves. Like, if we just went right back to the all-time highs, they'd be like, oh, well, it's a bull market. You know, better luck next time. You know? Whereas if the macro monthly Heikin-Ashi was turning black and we had already experienced a massive, like, 50% correction that just takes the wind out of our sails, and you know, it'll be obvious when it's not looking so good anymore. Like, these monthly Heikin-Ashis will be flattening out, and you know, these are the times here, even though you miss a lot of the move, the actual flow of the orders affirms you a lot easier when you're a bear if you wait for this sort of monthly environment, right? So right now, you know, it's just not it's just what the environment we're in. It's not the most confident time yet to be just bearish all the time, no matter what, you know? But there are some really strong warning signs for sure, which makes a lot of traders think that we're going super low, which is why it's so nefarious when these high time frame lows, when you hit a weekly low like this and just start pumping up, you know, it could, like I said, it can leave people in the dust because they're like, why aren't we going lower? But what could easily happen is, you know, you take this weekly low, come back up to the weekly high, and you're still bearish there. Look, you take that monthly high and then you go down. And it's like, does the chart look any more different? No, it does not. So a lot of times, all of our ideas play out. It's just a matter of when do we get in and when do we take our profits. Crypto Crank in the house, man. Thanks for popping in. He's been trading gold lately in his Crypto Coliseum, having a lot of success. Let's look at gold real quick. Gold formed a new weekly low, bounced off this prior monthly low here. This orange and red line kind of working together here to form a little bit of a low on gold. I don't know if I would short gold, you know. I think it's kind of just ranging here. It's super bullish for the year overall, so it's kind of like in that position Zcash is in, where even though it may look toppy at times, I'm still not going to mess with it because I would rather short a more bearish like a stock that's more bearish overall. So personally, I haven't touched gold too much, but it could use a correction down to the Q3 VWAP. That would be nice, you know. I mean, shit, any plunge down in here, anything over 3,500, those prior monthly lows, you know, the lows from those months in the summer, and you'd still be really bullish. It's crazy. So makes me kind of not want to touch it because yeah, you know, it's kind of in a choppy little Heikin-Ashi area here where it's a little indecisive. So not really my thing, man. But if you're dialed in, the asset that you're dialed into, you'll be so familiar with its little moves that it does that that's the way to do it, is to trade less things less frequently, but with more size and more conviction. Put more belief and more stake in the high confidence stuff, and stop trying to trade all the time. Mr. Zach says, what's good, FG? It's going good, man. Stephen Gates says the Coliseum is on fire, smacking gains, smacking trading. Good for you guys. Happy for you guys. Ricky Spanish says, times like these, you got to find something else to do that'll take the trading edge off. Yeah, man, it can be tricky waiting for an entry, you know? Like, you know, it's like we are bullish, but imagine if you were jumping the gun and just started longing this weekend. Now you're in the red, and then the moment that this hits your stop loss, like if you put your invalidation at this low, it's like, man, your stop loss is the most advantageous price for a long, you know? So that's the price you pay by being too early. You know, I get that the early bird gets the worm, but the early worm gets the bird, you know? So don't be the early worm. Be the early bird. So looks like you guys didn't have that many chart recommendations in the chat. So for the sake of keeping everything easy for everyone to watch later, I guess I'll stop it there, because, you know, it's pretty cut and dry what I'm looking at. Might do an update next couple days if anything like super drastic changes. I'll be in the VIP. But you know, you guys who I gave the free breakout accounts to, I really hope you guys are doing good with those. I hope all you guys are doing good in your trades and making gains, man. I mean, I hope that some of you guys caught that top with me from last week, man. That was an amazing top. Same short setup as the macro top. Just a simple weekly candle sweep, man. And so why deviate from the system? Stay patient for the big high time frame moves. See what's going on there, see how it feels, sniff it around. And once Bitcoin looks like it's convincingly found a little bottom, then you look at your alts, and you start targeting levels on that. Last week, for instance, Bitcoin sweeped last week's highs. And over the next 24 hours, altcoins then started to sweep their last week's highs. And so the timing of all the cryptos it was like dominoes, one after another, But if you understand which supports and resistances to play off of and you're willing to wait for them, you'll be surprised the prices you can get in a market when you ask for the right price. When you ask for a good price, the market will give it to you guys. As long as you have good timing around new periods. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the free info. I'll catch you guys in the Discord, and I'll be back on Wednesday. So, cheers.